Hi, I'm Charlene Bowden, the founder and president of It's Just Us Productions. 2020. This number will forever touch our lives in some way. Some of us have lost loved ones. We've added new members to our family. We are now working out of our homes. Our homes have become schools. Our home has become the church building, our office, restaurant. We've mastered knowing the measurement of 6 feet. And I'm still hearing 50 years later, the importance of washing my hands. And if this wasn't memorable enough, it's a presidential election year. It's Just Us is starting our new season, and although we're not back in the studios yet, we remain committed to sharing information that is impacting our community. I want to extend my sincere thanks to those of you who continue to support the It's Just Us radio show, and I hope you will join us over the next few weeks for these virtual conversations. We are less than 30 days away from the general election. Wow. I wanted to sit with my brother, Brigadier General, retired Richard B. Dix, to discuss the importance of voting, but specifically voting during this election. General Dix, Richard, it's so good to see you, my brother.
Good to see you too, my son.
Yes, indeed. So let's go back. So think back to our childhood. You know, we both grew up in Linwood Park and have some wonderful stories to share around that. But what are some of the messages that you can remember, grandfathers, fathers, that grandmothers, not let me forget our mothers, around the importance of voting?
Well, you know, I remember, Charlene, that the voting experience was something that was very serious. If you were of voting age, everyone around us in our community worked hard to get out to vote. And they understood the plight, the struggle, and the fight for the right to vote, stemming from just blatant oppression to stop them from voting in the 40s, 50s, and the early 60s. And, you know, I remember my relatives getting dressed to go out to the polls.
Yeah.
You know, tie. Yeah. And it was a proud moment to be able to exercise that right to vote.
Absolutely. And I just saw those images and we've seen those pictures. It was a big deal. You know, yes. It was a big deal. So how did you feel the very first time you were actually able to go and vote?
Well, I'll tell you, it was a moving experience for me. I remember going with my mom and my dad to vote. And my dad had just gotten off of work, and he was hustling to try to go and vote. And we talked about the importance of having the right to vote, and those that had died, trying to secure that right for us to vote, and those that were abused, beaten up, and you know, turned away from a voter's booth. So you know, for me, it was an honor, and it was something that I took very seriously as well. And, you know, I never was of that mindset that my one vote would not matter and it wouldn't count. Yeah. And I think we've got to get back to that.
We do. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because you and I listened to a song by Yellow Pain called My Vote Don't Count.
Yeah.
And I actually shared that with my grandchildren, my children and grandchildren, because of the message. So for those of you who don't know, the rapper, I think it was very well done, actually. The message started out with a conversation that a lot of us have about, I'm not going to vote, my vote don't count anyway. And he turned it very nicely and strategically to, not only does your vote count, but let me take you to all of the different places where your vote counts, the local level, the state level, the national level. Share what your thoughts were about that and about people thinking that their vote doesn't count.
Absolutely. You know, and in 2016, I was still on active duty, and I was stationed in Illinois. And one of my neighbors was a educator. Of all people who understand the three forms of government and the importance of the three elements of government, but not only on the federal level, but the state level as well. And she made a statement that she was not going to vote because she was torn between the two candidates, but really she thought that it was not going to matter. And as we watched the results come in, I said, man, I wonder how many other people felt like she did and did not go out to vote, and if it could have made a difference. And I remember seeing statistics later on that, in the swing states where the electoral college really matters, Hillary Clinton lost by as small of a margin as 3,000 votes. 3,000. But 14,000 stayed at home and didn't vote that had voted in the previous cycle for President Obama. And if all 14,000 had come out to vote, we may have had a different outcome, and we may not be in the situation that we're in right now.
Yeah. So in saying that, absolutely every vote counts.
Absolutely.
Every vote counts. So then we got to touch on this too, Rich. We are seeing a surge in, we see surges typically in certain elections, right? Mainly presidential elections. They just draw the numbers. We just really want to vote for the president. But as in this video and as you just shared, those local elections, voting for the senators and the national and state governors, all of those matter. What can we do moving forward to keep that same momentum going that we have this year in particular and moving towards a presidential? What do we do next year when it's not an actual presidential election coming up?
Well, we've got to understand the end game, Charlene. The other side of the Democratic spectrum, they understand it, and they play a long view or a long game that we historically don't play. They understand that if I have a Republican district attorney who believes like I believe, then crime reform won't happen. We can keep it the way we need to keep it. And if we privatize jails and things like that, then we can keep the jails full and we get return on our investment if we're investing in those prisons to keep people locked up. So disproportionately, it affects the minority as well as our white counterparts that are of a lower income, less educated, and don't have the same access to a better way of life that we struggle with on a daily basis. They're filling the populations of the prisons around the United States. And if you pay attention in those off cycles to your local officials, your state officials, your governor, and those election cycles, now, just like Yellow Pain was saying in the song, you have a long-term effect on pulling all of us out of the economic plight that we're in. It's no longer black or white or Hispanic or Asian. Everybody's in the same pot together as a melting pot. So everybody has to come out and they've got to vote on those off cycles, and they've got to drive the change that they want to see. If you don't vote in those off cycles, you don't have a say in your local, state, or federal government. And when people threaten your health care that, others have worked so hard to give, then shame on those who sat at home and said, no, it won't matter. I don't need to vote. I don't need to vote in the off cycle. If you want government dictating to you on how you're going to live and what you're going to do, then by not voting in those off cycles, you give way to their way of thinking and their way of dictating to us how we're going to be treated and how we're going to live and how our kids and their kids are going to live in the future. And the census is a great example of that.
Mm.
You know, the current administration wants to cut the census off and end it early when all of the population that's in this country had not been counted yet. And they understand that if everyone is counted, then there has to be an equitable split of resources coming from the federal government to take care of everybody that's inside of this country. And, you know, for some reason, they may or may not want that to occur. But once again, those same people that sat out in 16 and didn't vote, that came back in 18 and voted. But let's back up and give you a little historical perspective. In 2014 was an off cycle that you're talking about. If we had come out in mass and voted in 2014, we would not have lost the Senate. And we would have had the House and the Senate when President Obama and that administration was in there. And for the first, I think, 2.5 years of his administration, they were able to accomplish so much because they controlled the House and the Senate, and they were thinking about the general well-being of all Americans, not just the Democratic Americans,
Right.
not excluding or trying to punish the Republican Americans, but they were trying to bring the country together as a whole and take care of the entire country. And then when the Senate flipped and the Republicans gained control, they said, hey, we're not going to let you continue on the path that you're continuing on.
Mm-hmm.
But now, fast forward 6 years and look at what the Senate controlled by the Republicans are doing, along with the down trace in each state that's controlled by a Republican governor and a Republican administrator in the state house, and the havoc that they're wreaking on the American people. Now, I'm a soldier. You know, I swore a duty and an oath to protect the Constitution of the United States from all threats, foreign and domestic. I'm not a politician, but the one thing that I do believe in, the one thing that I was willing to give my life for, was the defense of this country. Your right to vote and your right to have access to the American dream. And when that's being oppressed or stopped, then I've got a problem with that. And it doesn't say that I'm blue or red, but I have a problem when people are being mistreated. And if you want the mistreatment to stop, if you want the police brutality to stop, we've got to get out and we've got to vote in these off-cycle elections to take back control of our local government. So you can hold police departments accountable if they're doing things like we saw with the 8 minutes of torture and that killing that everybody witnessed on video, you know. And that, I mean, I was sick when I saw that video. I was hurt. I understood as a black man who has been pulled over countless times, you know, and called boy, nigger, and everything else, and threatened how that young man felt, you know. And I could not imagine if my mom, your mom, had to deal with that kind of loss. You know, it's just, it's unthinkable. But we have a chance to control that. We've just got to get educated. We've got to understand the three forms of government and how they operate at the federal and the state level. And we've got to get in there and we've got to put officials in those government seats that really care about the American people and want to see a better America.
Ooh, you said a mouthful. Just thinking about those, what we call off elections. And I wonder if people are really, really for real understanding now with so much information. I mean, it's always been there, but every cycle we seem to hear it differently. And I'm just wondering how many people are really realizing the powers that the president has and does not have, and who actually kind of pushes those agendas forward. And those are the elections that we're talking about right now. And something that you mentioned, Rick, you know, we're brother and sister. By God's grace, you're my brother. I thank you. Thank God for that. And
Amen.
every opportunity that I get, which I get a lot of them, I make a point to thank you for your service to our country. This is no exception. Thank you for your service to our country. You
I
and
tell you, Shirley, that's going to become even more important. I didn't mean to cut you off,
no,
but
that's fine.
you know, if the veiled threat that was made the other night on the debate comes to fruition, you know, once again, the American military has got to step forward and protect its citizens and do what's right, you know. And those that have worn the uniform, you know, they will rise to the occasion to protect the country that we volunteer to support and defend. And you know, if that doesn't tell you how we feel about this country, then you know you've been living on Mars for the last year and a half. But you know, we've got to tell the listeners, don't give in to the intimidation, what they hear on Fox News or what they hear on NBC. You know, understand and think about your personal space and how you're being individually impacted and what you want to see change. And let that drive you to the poll or to vote by mail. It's secure. You know, the mail gets delivered and your vote will be counted. As soon as you get that absentee ballot, fill it out and send it back in. If you want to take it to the county seat and make sure it's dropped off in person, you can do that. And if you want to wait until early voting starts and you want to take it and drop it off at the poll location and have it turned in and counted, you can do all of that. But what we should not and will not and cannot do is give in to the intimidation and the fear mongers that want you to stay at home and not vote. We just can't do that. And trust me, the American military and law enforcement will step up and they will defend to make sure that the voting laws are administered and adhered to by every person that is at those poll locations and stuff. So, you know, if you need a ride, hey, give me a call. You know, I have no problem with getting people to the polls to help them get out and exercise their right to vote. I went to combat 6 times and almost died 3 to give you that right to vote. It's a very serious matter and it means a lot to me. So please get out and exercise your vote.
Thank you for that. Let's close here. So we've talked about how we, and not showing up at the polls impacts on a personal level, I guess I can say that way, our soldiers, our people in the military. I'm feeling a little bit emotional here, so I'm trying to pull it together for the next couple of minutes. We've talked about voter suppression, intimidation, fraud, poll watching, the barriers that are still in place to keep people from exercising their rights to vote. As we wrap up, can you let's go back to the conversation we had initially about those messages we heard as children and how our ancestors dressed up and made a big deal out of going to the polls to vote. Can you leave us with a message of hope and inspiration at this point?
Yeah, I can tell you, it's hard, but it's fair, sad, but it's true. Not everybody can do what the American people can do. Get out and vote. Get out and vote as if your life depends on it.
Indeed. Brigadier General Richard Bernard Dix, thank you so much, my brother, my friend, Rich. You, thank you for being here, for having this conversation with me. We have great conversations on and offline anyway. I'm glad that we can share this one with the public. So thanks for stopping by. Anything else you want to say in closing? The floor is yours if you like.
Hey, my sister, I'm so proud of what you do on a daily basis. And your show is phenomenal. And the fact that you give so much and it comes from your heart, and you're exercising and living God's true blessing and his meaning and purpose for you. And I'm so proud of you. And once again, thank you for allowing me a few minutes to rant and rave about this great country that we live in.
Hey, this is home. You always can come here and rant and rave and scream and pout and whatever you need to do.
Cool.
It's good to see you again, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Take care, Charlene. Love you.
You too. Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, I'm back. Thank you for tuning in to hear my conversation with Richard as we discuss this oh so important topic of voting. I received a few days after my conversation with Richard, I actually received notification that my ballot had been received and that my vote has been counted. We cannot stress enough the importance of voting, not just during the presidential election years, but general voting every year, every concern, every topic, every issue. We have to express our voice on the topics and the matters that it's going to impact us one way or the other. So why not take a moment to let your voice be heard by voting? Again, it's been a great conversation with Richard. I'm so glad that you joined us for the conversation today. We're here every couple of weeks with these virtual conversations, and I hope that you'll join us again here about 2 weeks from today. I will be talking with my guest, and I'm going to keep my guest a surprise, but we will be talking about the church. What is the church's response to what is happening right now in our world? You're going to enjoy my guest as much as I enjoy having conversations with my guests on and off camera. So I hope you'll come back to join us. Our website is IJUproductions.com. Visit our website. Click on our social media links and like us, follow us, connect with us, all the different social media terms that are used that I know I'm missing some of them, but I hope that you will connect with us and that you'll come back again in 2 weeks to hear our next conversation. We're here for the next few weeks, so come back and see us. I'm so glad you're here. And until next time, I hope that you will continue to happen to life. Take good care.